So we have Miss Gina Oster with us. She is running for District 18 State Senate seat. Am I correct?
State representative.
State rep seat. Okay, that's one of the clarifies. Because one of the things to us, well, I guess let's start here. Let's let you do your pitch that you normally do. You're obviously on the Republican side of the ticket. Was doing a little research. You're going up against the incumbent Eddie Manis. So
no, not an incumbent. It's an open seat. Yeah, he's just my opponent.
Okay, but he's been in other offices around before. Is that correct?
He ran for city mayor a few months ago, okay. So that's kind of where that is.
Okay, so that's why I recognize his name so hard. I just
right.
That's my fault. And again, another one of the things about this show is we want to try to focus on local politics, and the only one I ever really see is that little Sunday morning one on WBIR, and it's really boring. It's hard to watch, and so we're trying to make it a little more interesting for our personal demographic, and hopefully other people like a little bit more of a real world. Like, it's just so dry and cold when I see that version of it. And trying to research you to even have this interview, the only thing I could get media-wise was there was a WVLT story about you versus Manis in the primary, and then Virginia Couch is the unopposed Democrat on the ticket.
Right.
And so that's really all I could find. I got your website and that story. And so, again, we're not big fans of the media as a whole because we don't really feel like we hear ourselves. Right. And I'm trying to get better about understanding local politics, knowing what's going on, because I believe that's a better focus to get better change for my life, my family's life, my community. And it's just, it's so much harder to find stuff and learn about it. We can hear about the president all day, every day.
Right.
And, that's so far removed from us. So you're obviously.
And from our point of view, it's sad on how you have, so many people that go and vote when a president's being elected, and it's the turnout when it's non-presidential election year. And right. It's just more effect can be made within your local government than the national government. And I don't even know how to get to people out there to realize that.
Right.
Okay. So for you, go ahead.
Yeah. It's really important, I think, because the state and the local politics are what really, really affect us on our daily lives. And it's probably not as exciting, though, right. As what's happening on the national level a lot of the times. But it's definitely important. And being able to talk to the voters right now, I'm at least being able to share that information with them.
That's good. I first found out about you as a couple of your volunteers knocked on my door. And I'm usually the type that's like, get out of my lawn. Yeah, my guy. But they were good and they're polite, and they gave me a flyer. And, again, this is the point, is that, like, I knew there was some stuff coming up on that's local on the ballot, and we had some primaries going on, all that different stuff. But I didn't know what seat was on. I didn't know all that kind of stuff. And so, again, an excuse for me to get more personal knowledge and hopefully share some of that personal knowledge with more people is the point here.
Right.
So I saw on your site you were, Cedar Bluff Elementary PTO?
Cedar Bluff schools at that time. So it was all three schools were PTSA. And I started actually on the kids vote the year before my oldest son went to school, just so I could get used to the school and how everything worked, and really love the legislative part of it, of course. And so the next year I ended up being legislative chairperson. And through that, I ended up through Knox County PTA, and I would go to the different schools in the county that did not have legislative positions. And you kind of needed that legislative position in the PTA because each school had its own issues, and they kind of needed to learn how to advocate for that. So I did that, really enjoyed that, and then ended up becoming president of the PTA, and worked in Carnes PTA when the boys got over there because they all graduated from Carnes. Okay. So I just really spent a lot of time in the schools, probably more time at school than I did at home a lot of the time.
I know a couple of those moms. I run into them when I go into the school from time to time.
Yeah. So, but I loved it, and it's a sweet little school. And so, but I learned a lot. I learned how to work with our county commissioners. Okay. I learned how to work with our school board and our state reps at that time. So I think it taught me a lot.
Okay. So that does bring one of the questions I had going into this is, you talk a lot about education through your website, and I'm a big fan of that. I have 2 elementary age kids myself. Max had one that just graduated high school, and then he has 3 that are
this morning.
Yes, this morning graduated from Hall
Wow.
this morning.
Congratulations.
And then he's got 3 more that are still in the school system. I think the youngest is starting 5th grade or 6th grade this year?
She started middle school, Hall's Middle this year. And then I have a junior in the STEM Academy.
Wow.
Right. And so, school stuff's a big deal to me. And so I guess the first question is, in the state rep seat, how much involvement does that normally have in the school systems as far as effective change for, I would assume budgeting is a big deal, but outside of that, what all does the state, would this seat, how much would this seat involve my kids in Knox County schools?
Well, budgeting is obviously the biggest part,
right?
In any legislation that's written for education. In this position, in my opinion, because when I had state reps years ago that I worked with, Steve Buttrey was one of them. Steve stayed very involved in the schools, meaning he actually came into the schools and met the teachers, talked to them. That's exactly how I want to do it, because I think that's the right thing to do, right? Yeah. So I'm only in Nashville from the second week of January till the end of April, and I'm only down there Monday through Thursday, and I'm back. So most of my time is in my district. So it needs to be in the schools that I represent, I feel like, because I'm not going to know what kind of legislation possibly could need to be changed, or a curriculum issue, or a safety issue, whatever that issue is, if I'm not actively involved in that situation. So I feel like for my position, that's going to be one of my big focuses. So as much as the principals and the teachers allow me in and want me in there, that's what I'm going to do.
Excellent. That's great. So short version, more recent thing for us is I was talking to one of my neighbors, and we were arguing whether we're going back to school in August. Do you have any thoughts on that as far as current?
Well, they need to go back to school in August. Because what happened with the seniors, you guys can attest to this, was terrible, losing their senior semester, losing prom, losing graduation, and all the stuff that goes into that. I was thinking about that. My gosh, if I would have missed my senior semester, I would have been devastated.
It would have been great for me, but I was one of those kids. That was a little different for me. But I mean,
I would have been devastated. But they need to get back to school, start in August. Okay. And I just I wish it could have been handled a little bit different.
Right. I mean, in fairness, I'm with you 100%. And the lack of understanding of what was happening, which seemed to be across the board, came out with, I believe, and I think you're in the same boat, is that we kind of overreacted to it. And then once we overreacted, we had to run the course at least out. And then by the time it was like, okay, maybe we could go back. They got 2 weeks left. It's going to be a week of getting them back used to school, and then a week of trying to keep them focused because they're about to get right back out of school. So
that's exactly right.
I understand how what happened. I'm not happy with it. I actually emailed Mr. Thomas and my principal and some different stuff, and I was one of the angry parents in what was going on with their reaction, and especially their at-home stuff they put together was really soft and really hard to keep up with. And through my experience that I just showed you and how bad I am with Zoom, trying to get the teachers and all those different things in place was a little rough. And so I'm very concerned with that survey they sent out. Did you get the survey as well from?
Well, I didn't get the survey because, of course, all mine are graduated and out of school for a long time. I've got, in 4 more years, I've got my first grandbaby going into Knox County School. So let me tell you, it's important to me, big time. My oldest is 28. I got 27 and 24. So we've been out for a while. I didn't get the survey. I've talked to parents that got the survey. Obviously, they were not happy about it. Actually trying to get my hands on a copy of that. So
I can email you the link. We'll see what happens.
If you can, that'd be fabulous.
I mean, essentially it's posturing for trying to figure out if remote learning can work with the rules, because I know Bob Thomas is always scared of getting sued again. And so he's got to make sure that every single kid has every single ounce of access to everything, which I understand that's part of the job. But it seems like they're trying to position themselves to be capable of at least having partial school through Zoom and through online learning stuff.
I would not be for that at all. And I understand the whole administrative part of it. I do get that. And I mean, I get, he's in charge of thousands and thousands of children. I've got that. But school is more than just like a learning. It's a whole experience. It's a social experience.
Max's
Yeah,
thing, that's his big thing. It's the social, dealing with people that suck,
Yeah.
dealing with people you don't like. That kid that sits next to you that you're stuck next to for an entire year is your least favorite person on the planet. And I mean, that's life, you got to
That's
sit in
right.
traffic and sit next to those people too. It's part of what you learn in school. And
That's right.
Max is a huge proponent of that, and I agree with it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of my point on that is I have a sister. She's 29 now, I think, but she was homeschooled all the way through school. She started college when she was 16, and then she graduated valedictorian, University of Tampa. Very smart, very educated, but it took her probably 3 or 4 years after school to actually get the social skills that she missed out on.
Right.
So, when her going to college and simple stuff of, when you're walking down the hallways, how everyone walks down the hallway, she just walked down the middle, and so there's a lot more I think that goes into school other than just the academic part.
Yep. I'm all for that.
All right. So let's push off schools a little bit. And I guess, again, like we joke about it, like one of our first couple episodes is like, it's been now, I don't know, 15 years since my last civics class, and I try to pay attention and I try to keep up. And again, the same thing as stated earlier, it's easier to keep up with what's going on in the federal rules and who affects what. So outside of schooling, which, like you said, budget's a big deal on, what other things are major concerns in a state rep seat? Like what are going to be?
Well, really, the budget's going to be a big one this year, only because of the whole virus.
Right.
That'll take front and center, I'm sure, until we can kind of get to the end of the year and that kind of stuff. So there'll end up being budget cuts. There'll end up being all of that kind of stuff. Now, Tennessee's got a $300 billion rainy day fund, which is fabulous. Yeah. But am I for cutting teachers' pay and some things that I feel like are necessary? Well, we have that rainy day fund there for a reason, and I don't. So that's going to be a tough. It's probably going to be a really tough session as far as that goes, just because of the budget and all that's going to entail because of this.
Now, shouldn't there be I would think there would be a surplus from this year, since there wasn't all the school lunches, and there wasn't all the stuff that goes into running schools, the sports programs that the schools had to pay for, and
there should be.
Shouldn't there be some money left over? I mean, I'm sure it costs Knox County a lot to rent out Thompson-Mullen Arena. I don't know if University of Tennessee gives it to them for free, but I would think there would be some money left over, but we know that's
there certainly should be, and that's definitely going to be something that's going to have to be that I'm going to have to look at. And of course, it's going in as a freshman legislator. It's going to, with now the budget and this kind of stuff, it's going to take me a sec to catch up, just because, the ones that are down there are kind of already working on, because they're back in session now, which is not normal, but they ended up having to leave session because of the virus. So they're down there working on that stuff right now. So I'm not quite sure when I get there in January, what we're really going to be focusing on that point, because
hopefully
do we know if
this, some of these for sure?
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. And so, again, like we're so buried in the current of the coronavirus, and then we have all the looting and rioting issues and stuff like that. So, I guess what for me is like, how much does the State House have any pull over the guidelines that Governor Lee is putting in place and pushing those back and getting us allowed to go back to a more normal life? Obviously,
well, really,
some precautions, but
what really happened was when the federal government then gave control to the states, and then the states ended up giving control to the cities or counties. And then what happened really in Knoxville City and in county is they kind of gave it to the health department.
Right.
And personally, I felt like that was the mayor's responsibility. Definitely take the advice of the health department, but I felt like that was kind of their cross to bear, if you will. And not a fun one, I'm sure, but somebody asked me yesterday, actually out door knocking, what I would have done in the legislature, my opinion would have been. And I said, my thought to the governor would have been, or to the mayors, whatever group is the most affected by this virus at the beginning, those are the ones that we need to protect. I don't believe that we shut down an entire town. I don't believe we shut down the United States. We start at that level and work our way back. So like you were talking about earlier with the schools, there was this reaction and then all the ripples that follow with that reaction.
Right.
So now that's what we're at. We're in those ripples now trying to come back out of it. So that would have been my first opinion for the older people, for the people who are ill, who have issues that would have affected that. But to go in and try to tell businesses that they're essential and then some aren't essential and then this is essential and it was almost like it was a ball going down a hill that we couldn't stop.
Right.
It just kept gaining momentum. Yeah. And it was hurting a lot of people. So, the virus is real. People got sick from it. I understand that, but there are other issues that are coming along with this virus, being mental health, being emotional, being financial. There are a lot of other things that come along with that. And so we've got to, I'm hoping that we learned a lot of lessons this time.
I hope so too, indeed. Okay, so that brought something to mind, which I guess gets a little bit out of the current event side of the conversation into something that I get into a lot of conversation. Max's dad is my favorite arguing partner with this one about tax incentives for import business. So there's been media both ways on the big Volkswagen plant down in Chattanooga and whether the tax incentives they were worth it. And what your thoughts on some of those practices are. Because I'm personally a fan of it if the incentive is set forth correctly, and that's one thing that I see in a lot of policy stuff like that is the incentives aren't quite right, but the idea is good. It just doesn't. The execution fails, I guess. And so I guess what I'm asking is like, what are your thoughts on? I don't know. One to me that I was kind of weird about was the Regal moving downtown here, and what incentive they had to move from Knox County to Knox County. I thought that one was kind of weird, but I was a big fan of the bringing Volkswagen in idea, trying to get that factory up and running. And I don't know the details of the whole incentive plan, but that's what I like to argue with Max's dad about. He's a union guy, so there's all sorts of stuff I can argue with him about. But so yeah, what your thoughts are on incentive programs like that? And I mean, if you even knew of anything currently, I know you're not in yet, but if you knew of anything currently through some of your contacts of things that are possible for Knox County, Knoxville area, in that kind of realm of conversation.
Right. I know that they are talking to a few companies, but nothing has been, talked about openly yet. So, but I agree with you on the incentives. Okay, so after this virus, if that didn't show everybody that we have got to be more self-reliant on ourselves and our country and not give companies the ability to go overseas but they want to be an American company. So if given American companies to get them back to America and to be doing work in our cities and our states, to me, it makes sense to give them an incentive now. But the incentive, like you said, have to make sense for the citizens, has to make sense for the companies. We also, of course, and this is federal level, but there's some state things that we can do also as far as red tape, because that's what costs these companies so much money to do things in the United States, where they can go overseas and not have all the regulations and all of the stuff that they've got to go through. So my biggest thing is we've got to get companies back into our states and back into our towns and back into this country, because I mean, like I said, this virus should show us, that should be a big wake up call for all of us. So I'm all for that, but like I say, it's got to look right, and
right.
it's got to play out right to make sense for everybody.
Right. And that same line of question is current taxes on businesses and current red tape. Max and I are partners in a business, which is kind of where I was pushed to with this, is that, I mean, we don't mind it. They've been super helpful. We have a company out of Nashville that does all our accounting and all our bookkeeping and stuff like that. And it's one of my complaints as a business owner is just a constant, I mean, what would you say, Max? Like at least 3 or 4 items a month come through the mailbox that it's some tax on something that we forgot to pay or missed the last time around.
Something or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always, there's so many taxes that you have to pay. And when we operated the business with us and trying to do it all, we just got to the point, it's like, we've got to hire a firm,
Right.
you know, an accounting firm, just to handle all the stuff, because you don't
Right.
know, you don't. And even when we had a business and then we closed it down, I didn't know that we were supposed to file our final tax return by 90 days. And then when we filed at the end of the year, we had a $5,000 fee for not filing. It's like, how do people know this stuff? And it just seems like there's so much stuff that is an extra tax on a business owner just to get extra money out of them.
And especially
Exactly.
the smaller businesses that can't afford to have an accounting staff as part of their entirety staff. That, for us, for example, we got a third party, which helped a lot, but it seems almost punitive to the small
Right.
companies to try to keep up with everything that's in front of them in their actual business, and then throw all the paperwork on top. And
Exactly.
so I guess the question being, with a long intro, would be your stance on some of the tax and red tape structure that's in place now. If there's any opportunity to try to weed some of that out, or what's your thought?
Get it out. My husband actually works for a small company, has for 28 years. And of course, we've seen it over the years just continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse and more expensive. And of course, health insurance, just everything that goes into owning a business has just gotten outrageous. And I'm a realtor also. And so I work with the home builders, and we actually had a meeting a few months ago, and they were talking about some more regulations that were coming up. Well, the problem is people talk about affordable housing, and, you know, Knox County is booming. I mean, we're growing, and housing market is insane busy right now. I mean, I'm crazy busy. And, but the affordable housing, or for first time buyers, this kind of stuff is tough, because these builders are getting hit with all these regulations and all of this red tape and all of these, inspections and that cost. And so what are they going to do? They have to pass that on to the homeowner, because they've got to be able to make money.
Right.
And so there's a lot of stuff in that arena too that can be cut. So if there's an opportunity and it makes sense, and it's obviously not at the detriment of someone's health or safety or well-being, then I think it needs to be looked at being cut, because we are stifling people being able to come in like you guys and have a small business, or to be able to be entrepreneurs, if we're going to tax them and regulate them to death. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Okay, good. You're you know your audience right now. At least you're selling well to me. I don't know. Max, you got anything right now? I'm kind of blanking on any further questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of talking about like just bureaucratic stuff. You know, I got a letter in the mail from Knox County Property Code Enforcement. I got it on Friday, because I don't have a homeowners association, but I have an RV and I have a traveler trailer. I've got 2.25 acres, and I was told I'm in violation, that I can't have 2 of those on my property. I'm only allowed 1.
Wow.
And to me, I'm like, why is there a law?
It's county. It's his property.
And if I don't remove one of the trailers, so means I'm going to have to.
Oh, lost it there for a second. Yeah.
Say again?
No, we lost you there for a second. It was, yeah. So you're county, not city, correct?
I'm county, not city.
Right. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I have to store one of those. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And people have a problem with that too, as far as home
I was also
ownership.
told that you can't.
You were told that you can't.
I was saying you can't have 2 boats. So if you have a pontoon boat and a fishing boat, you're not allowed to have those. That doesn't make a bit of sense.
That doesn't make any sense, which is actually kind of surprising for the county. Because they usually tend to be a little bit looser.
I was very surprised.
Yeah, tend to be a little bit looser on that, especially if you don't have an HOA that,
No.
you know, that's telling you that.
Well, so I guess
That's interesting.
yeah. Well, I mean, the question is, which is probably not technically in your field, would be where. Okay, so here's a better way. to your knowledge, where can Max go to see the law, the code that he is breaking by doing this? Do you know where?
Well, you know what I would do is I would call your county commissioner and speak with your county commissioner about. I would call your county commissioner and speak with them about this, and let them do that research.
I called the code office. I called the code office this morning and talked to them, and the lady's like, I think it's ridiculous, but these are the laws. She said someone's going to be at your property on the 18th to look at it. Because the other thing they hit me for, or tried to hit me for, they said that you're only going to have one inoperable vehicle in your yard. And I have a lot of vehicles. I have a food truck called Veteran Rations. I have an old Jeep but all of my vehicles run, but somebody doesn't like me having stuff. So now I'm forced to come out here on the 18th and show her that all the vehicles are tagged, all the vehicles run. And it's a nuisance.
Yeah. I still would. I mean, not that your county commissioner could change that, but your county commissioner could definitely get a little bit more information and that kind of stuff. I think I would definitely reach out to them. I'm not sure who that is. I mean, you can always send me a text and give me your address, and I can look it up and tell you who your commissioner is.
Okay. I don't know either. Which
I
is bad.
I had my county commissioner's number on my phone for a
Speed
little
dial.
while. I don't know if he's say again.
So on speed dial.
Yeah, I had a big issue with rural metro. I won't go into this story. I just had a fight with rural metro over them. I'm county as well, and I had my burn permit, and I burned some brush out, and one of my neighbors called, and rural metro shows up, and then they tried to send me a $1,500 bill, and I had a big argument with them about it. And I was trying to figure out, and it's a weird one, but I don't know. We don't need to go into that whole story. It's a fun story. I like to tell it now that it's over. And that commissioner was great. I wish I could pull his name out, but I mean, I called him out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I got a little situation." He's like, "Tell me about it." And I went, "Blah." Like, I was very hot at the time. I called my lawyer. I was about as mad with it's a semi-public interaction as ever been. I mean, no, Rural Metro is a private company, and that weird relationship that they have in the county, which I don't know. That's one that I don't know how I feel about. I would describe myself as a libertarian, so I don't really care about a fire department. They're not that's not my problem, and I don't necessarily hate the idea of a private fire department. But some of their tactics are kind of gross to me. It was pay us the $1,500, or you could sign up as a member and we'll post date it and just pay us $500. It's like, well, that sounds kind of like blackmail.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just me reacting to the time. It was not a pleasant experience. But I don't know. I really appreciate you. I think we've got a solid 30 minutes, and we've taken up enough of your time. We're Max and I and another buddy of ours are property shopping. We're looking for some land, but we're looking Chattanooga. If you know anybody that direction.
Okay,
let us know. We're interested in some big property, trying to have some acreage. So, but again, we can't thank you enough. If you want to take a second and plug your website, any way that people can get in touch with you on how to learn more about you, to get any information they want to know as far as a better education and how to vote. That's one of the things we're trying to do with this show. And so hopefully for our listenership, they can take the time to dig more into you and see more of what's going on. So go ahead if you'd like to do that.
Perfect. Well, I wanted to thank both of you for having me on. I enjoyed the opportunity to be able to talk about issues and things that are going on. I grew up in Knoxville, was raised here. My husband and I both raised our boys at Cedar Bluff and Carnes. And we have a new grandbaby. And so I've definitely got her interest in mind of when I go down to Nashville. Just have served my community in this Cedar Bluff community for 26 years. And I currently serve on the Sheriff's Merit Council, and I served on the Knox County Ethics Board. So my experience and passion for Knoxville, I'm hoping to be able to take down to Nashville. And one of the things I do want to do when I'm elected is I want to be able to have county meetings, district meetings, so people can come out, meet me, talk to me. I feel like that is extremely important for a representative to be accessible. I expect that out of my representative, so I've got to do the same. You can visit my website at voteginaoster.com, and my cell phone number is 865-382-7799. So you can get a hold of me, ask me any questions, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to anybody.
Excellent. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Just for a quick clarification, it's Oster, Oster.
Just like the appliances. Yep.
Okay. Like I always want people to spell names, because I mean, there's that one person that has the one name that sounds like one and it's spelled differently.
That's exactly right.
Gina, thank you so much. If you ever need anything from us, please feel free. And again, thanks a lot, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye, Gina. Thank you.